She drives you absolutely crazy sometimes, right? Or am I the only one? When her emotions come at you all at once, it feels like there's no way to win. 1 minute, she seems normal. And then one wrong word, one wrong phrase, and she completely flips. Her heart just gets cold. You can feel it. Her voice gets deeper and more masculine and defensive. She begins to pull herself away from you. What if I told you those very same emotions that drive you nuts are also the key to saving your marriage? Your wife's intense emotions are presenting a hidden message. And once you unlock and decipher it, you'll notice something incredible. She will start opening up, trusting you, and identifying as your wife again.
She started wearing her wedding ring again.
Hmm.
In fact, I was in one of our group meetings and she just came in. She's like, oh, my engagement ring doesn't fit anymore, but my wedding ring does. And I was like, I remember when she was like screaming at me, taking the ring off and, throwing it away. Like I didn't even know that she still had it.
In the next few minutes, I'll share 3 principles David applied to his marriage to turn it around. The second one is a challenge you must accept if you want to connect with your wife on a whole new level. Though, be warned, because this key is an advanced skill. But once you get it down, everything just gets better. For the men who are ready to solidify their place as the most grounded, magnetic version of themselves, let's jump in. First, we'll dive into a principle that will lay the groundwork to winning your wife back. It is about shifting how you show up at your core of who you are. See, David is a man of faith. And in our conversation, we spoke about something important that goes beyond the surface level of marriage dynamics.
Did you hear the study? I don't know the exact amount, but it's high 90 percentile of couples that pray together end up staying together. And I was really thinking about this, Dave, like, why is that so? And you could probably add on to this, but there's 2 reasons that I came up with. One, it puts you more on the like same team, right? Like it's us, like you're doing this activity together that's like, praying to God. And it's like, it kind of increases the oneness between the 2 of you. And for me, what I see, all problems, if you want to look at like ego and higher self, all problems stem from fear and the ego. And when you're praying to God, you're going to that like higher level of service and like giving and like forgiveness and gratitude and like all these things that are like getting you outside of your own selfish ego needs, right? And so you're tapping more into that like higher self, like divine self. And I think those are the 2 biggest reasons why prayer together with your partner is so effective.
Yeah, well, and I think too that like God's really there, and you can just, I think psychologically, if you want to talk about it in that sense too, it's like you really connect with the deep hurts and the feelings that you have, and you can just share that with him, like as your father, like he knows and he cares and he loves us, and to be able to like I think praying gives us a chance to really do that.
The principle we're discussing here is called ego self shift. It is simply about letting go of your need to control her perceptions of you and her emotions, and move beyond pride and fear to connect with your higher self. It's about becoming the best, most grounded version of who you are, whether it's through prayer or other ways I'll suggest in a second. When you're stuck in ego, every interaction feels like a fight to be right. But shifting out of that mindset opens up space for real trust, connection, and growth. Even if your wife isn't with you right now, embracing this shift, it can and will start to heal the relationship in some powerful ways. So let's look at some practical ways to apply this into your life to make it real. Let's talk about reflection or meditation in the heat of an emotional storm. Taking time to step back through meditation or quiet reflection, it creates that mental space to let go of anxiety. Right, allowing you to approach things from a place of peace and confidence, that silent power. Because when you're anxious, that's what's pushing her away. She feels that anxiety and she wants to reject you. So by producing calm, it allows her to feel more safe with you. The next one is a client favorite in our program, which is journaling, right? Writing things down each day is a way to unpack your thoughts and reflect on your daily actions. What journaling does is that it helps you see where you can grow, where you need more patience, or where you might let ego just get in the way. What happens over time is that this habit builds your sense of self-awareness and keeps you grounded, which naturally impacts your relationship far better. The next habit is to reach out with love. When you reach out to your wife, focus on compassion and patience, about giving instead of focusing on what you need from her, okay? It's not about expecting anything back, okay? Having that covert contract, trying to get her to see you a certain way or get the relationship to move forward. It's just about being with her in the moment and giving her value. This approach subtly communicates that you're growing and willing to be present, even if it's just in small, fleeting moments. For a lot of men who are religious, praying daily, I'm sure a lot of, if you are, then you probably do, but praying to God helps a lot of men. We are not a religious program, but a lot of guys in our program are Christian, and so we do create that space and tell men that they should do it because it does help a lot of people through the program. Just make sure you have your intentions for the prayer and make sure it's aligning with your spiritual values. Now, look, David was no stranger to challenges in his marriage, especially with the complexities of a cross-cultural relationship. But when their close connection frayed over time and things took a turn for the worse, they tried counseling, as many couples do. And if you watch my YouTube videos, you know I often talk about the pitfalls of traditional marriage counseling. And obviously I know this perspective very well because I am a licensed therapist for over 10 years and I used to do traditional marriage counseling. For David, counseling only brought 2 more challenges to the surface, and here was the first one.
A lot of the things that you described in your videos happened during the counseling, and so she felt reinforced in her desire to leave me, and I was freaking out, and we'd been through years of figuring stuff out. I mean, from the very beginning. I mean, we were in a cross-cultural relationship. There's a lot of expectations and things to sort through, but we were in a pretty bad place.
So their counseling session reinforced her desire to leave him. Well, it's pretty frustrating, isn't it? Before I tell you the second strike against them from counseling, I mentioned David's faith being tested. What added an extra layer of complexity was how deeply involved and active they were together in their church.
And so she had told me she was gonna move out, and I had freaked out from that and shared that with some of my men's prayer partner group to pray, because I was like, oh man, God help me, you know. Yeah. And we were also employed with the church, so one of the guys like came to the pastor and like said, hey, these guys might be breaking up, you know. And
if that wasn't challenging enough, the advice they received in counseling became an even bigger setback and nearly tore them apart for good.
What helped was watching your videos and hope, right, that we really can fight for our marriage on our own, because the counselors were always said exactly the opposite, right? They said, oh, if there's not 2 who want it to happen, then it can't happen. And I was like, come on, that is not how this works, right? Marriage is forever.
Which brings me to something I don't think I've ever fully discussed anywhere online. Yet it's arguably the most important part of this video, and something I wish every man in a struggling marriage could hear.
I want to touch on something that you said that I don't think I've ever really discussed, which is the whole idea about if one person only wants to work on it, then that it can't work. But like, like you, David, or like even if anyone listening to it's like, have you ever doubted something and then someone had so much certainty in this thing working out? It doesn't even have to be a relationship, just like an event or like a project or relationship. Like they give you that certainty. It's state transference 101. It's like psychology 101, which is why it's so frustrating when I hear these stories over and over, therapists being like, well, if only one person wants to work on it. It's like, you're not allowed to have doubt.
As David continued working on himself, he discovered the second principle. Now, this is why your wife's emotions are the key to saving your marriage. When you apply this, instead of escalating arguments or feeling distant, she'll start to open up more. Her moods, her emotions, they won't feel like attacks anymore, but more like invitations to reconnect and show up for her. You'll start to see her soften because of that. Her guard will come down and she'll start trusting the emotional space that you create with her as the masculine leader in the relationship, as you should be. So David's going to talk about this at first, and then I'll explain the key to really understanding what's happening here.
I mean, all people, but particularly women, filter things through their feelings. And so it helped me understand like how my wife could go from, oh, you're the most amazing person in the world, I love you so much, I worship you, you're so awesome, to learning not to be reactive was really helpful.
The optimal paradigm here for a guy when the wife is in the dual mind narrative, which is what you're referring to, is to believe that she's challenging you in your own identity, and that allows you the opportunity to like solidify more of like knowing who you are as a man. Because if she can
Right.
influence the way you see yourself, she doesn't want to be with you on a biological level.
So what we're describing is something I call the cognitive duality framework. I say this is the optimal paradigm for a guy because it is. Achieving this is the highest level of emotional mastery you can take in a relationship. This cognitive duality framework is all about understanding that women process their thoughts and emotions together in unison. This means her feelings can shift fast from I love you to I hate you. And it's not about her being really irrational in her mind. What it's about is how she can experience emotions and interpret things in a moment. Okay? Now, learning to recognize these shifts and to not take them personally is the key. If you can stay calm and not react when her emotions swing back and forth, you start to notice that she starts to feel safer around you, more secure. Instead of escalating conflict, what you do, instead of being defensive, yelling back, running away, you create space, a little container for her to feel understood, right? This framework helps you understand that staying grounded prevents you from getting pulled back into her emotions back and forth, okay? You are stable, you are in your masculine, which then naturally draws her back toward you again. I want you to think of yourself as an athlete, okay, with a demanding coach. We've all had them, at least I hope you have, because it's actually a blessing in disguise. But the coach pushes you hard, points out your weaknesses, and sometimes make you question your own abilities. But deep down, the coach is challenging you because they believe in you. They see your potential. When your wife challenges you, it's like that coach. It's the coach pushing you to be your best self. She wants to see if you'll step up and become the man that she has seen in the beginning. She's seen glimpses of it, times and periods in the life when you guys were loving together, where you were that man with the attunement and the leadership. So this is an opportunity to solidify your identity and prove you can handle the pressure without losing sight of who you really are. Now, that's the esoteric. Let's bring it back to the practical to hone this cognitive duality framework, okay? Listen to our further conversation.
Practically, the way that works too, David, is like, and this is something that is usually in the unconscious, right? Like she's just an angry person. But like when you learn that her and her father used to have that back and forth, and it was just the way they communicated, and it doesn't mean that he doesn't love her less or she doesn't love him less. But to you, if that were to happen with your mother, oh,
Right. Yeah.
you guys are not going to talk for a week. But like, so that difference, and we don't, there's no like a not underlying conversation there of why it's going on. But once you understand that, it's
Yeah.
like when she's yelling at you next time, you're like, okay, this doesn't mean like my emotions are telling me that she hates me, she
Right.
doesn't need me, or all this stuff.
Exactly.
But I can, have that separation between my thoughts and my emotions and my actions, and then that separation allows for new change.
I think I made the mistake, especially earlier in our relationship, that I would just like completely cut off, and instead of being like, oh no, I can cut off from those anxious feelings that come up, and trusting that this is just a way we communicate, and we can stay connected, and we can work through the problem. To engage calmly and to keep your frame, that helps bring that calm back. That helps the storm calm down, right? And
like I said, this is an advanced skill, separating your thoughts like that and engaging calmly. But it's a skill that we can help you with too. You can set up a call with our team by clicking the link down below to get a free marriage evaluation call. But I'm going to let you know, it's not just free advice. We want men who are taking the call, that want to do something different, that want to take action. So if you want to take action and commit, then set up the call by clicking the link down below. Now, by rising to the challenge of the cognitive duality framework, you've unlocked a deeper sense of safety and connection. But there's a final step that can bring even more warmth and openness from her. A shift that sees her looking up to you with renewed attraction and trust. Once again, I'll let David talk about it.
And made some big decisions. Like we went on a big missions trip. We went on a big family trip to Bulgaria. It's the first time we've been back to her home country since we've had kids. Because again, she would always be like, "Oh, I don't know," because she has some difficult relationship with her family, and also worried about finances. And so I would listen to her and be like, "Oh, okay, well, we won't go this year. Like we won't go this year." And then I was kind of like, I just have to decide we're going to go,
Right.
because and that, I think that's one thing that I've what frustrated me so much was how I would expect her to be able to make decisions, but she couldn't because she would be paralyzed by, fear one way, like fear of disappointment one way, or fear of lack one way, and how, like, my failure in being a leader and just saying, hey, this is what we're going to do. And I'm not going to let what you're concerned about stop us from taking action that we need to take.
So the principle here is called aligned leadership. It is about stepping up and making confident, decisive choices, especially when your wife feels overwhelmed or uncertain. It's not about ignoring her concerns, but about relieving the burden of constantly making decisions. When the weight of making every decision falls on your wife, she's forced to harden and step into her masculine, which leaves her feeling cold, stressed, and just closed off. This causes her to be stressed out and in constant fight or flight. She also begins to build resentment toward you for not protecting her and making her life easier. Because your role in the masculine is to bear the burden of responsibility and to take charge of everyone in your kingdom, especially your queen. So when she has to reign over things herself, she begins to see you more as a squire and less as the king that she married. However, when you step into this role confidently and take the lead, she can let go and allow her feminine energy just to flow. She begins to exit her mind and enter into her body. She lightens up, becomes more nurturing, aroused, and supportive towards you. In the movie Mr. and Mrs. Smith, there's a scene where John, Brad Pitt's character, and Jane, Angelina Jolie, are having dinner right before the big fight in their home. And the tension between them is at its peak. They've both been hiding things from each other, leading to just emotional disconnection. Now, as they reveal the truth and the tension explodes into action, John steps into his leadership role. They kiss passionately instead of continuing the deceit. He takes the lead by sacrificing his life for her, which allowed her to soften, to trust and embrace him. So by the end of the movie, they are working as a team with renewed emotional connection. It shows how John stepping up to lead by being honest and decisive helps repair the relationship. Hey, by the way, I highly recommend, if you want to see another success story of a guy where his wife said, never in a million years are we getting back together, yet they did, check out the video right there. Also, set up a call with our team by clicking the link down below. So press like if you're new here, and I'll see you in the next one. Cheers.